Is he man or is he beast? That is the question we ask every time Ben joins the call. What's up, guys? It's the Unqualified Film Bros coming at you with another Oscar preview review. We are here to talk about Nightmare Alley. What'd you guys think?
I honestly liked it a lot. I thought it was a great film. I hate to say this, like I genuinely hate to say it. I kind of see how it wasn't like a big hit, kind of, in that it's like if you're into like seeing a noir-esque film, it's great. If you're not looking for a noir-esque film, it's like it doesn't have like not a whole lot. That's too dismissive. Basically, it's unfortunate that it wasn't a huge hit. I understand why, but it's still a great film, and I thought it was very entertaining. I liked it a lot. If that makes sense. Obviously, Guillermo del Toro has his style.
I mean, I'm not generally a del Toro kind of guy. His style is usually a little bit too. It's scary for me. No.
Water's your favorite film, right?
No, I appreciate Guillermo del Toro as a filmmaker. I think he's very talented in what I have seen from him. This felt like a departure from his usual form. It's neo-noir, it's crime thriller, it's not, I hate to associate him with one genre, but it's not a creature feature. You're not going to see a beast interacting with humans in some level of horror or terror. So I think he really leaned into the gritty, the crime, the psychological element of crime in Stan Carlisle's rise and fall in the film. Obviously, spoilers are in effect. You guys know that by now. But I thought Del Toro, with the source material, obviously this is not the first time that this story has been told on film. I think with this story, his adaptation is really strong. Not the best picture of the year, in my opinion, but we'll get into that in our Oscar predictions episode a couple weeks from now. But it was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly thought it was like a very good movie. I thought Del Toro did a lot of stuff, and like you said, he doesn't really, utilize like actual monsters. But in some ways, he utilizes like the monsters within humans, like the monster within. With all of these people, they have these like dark demons haunting them. Certainly, like the main protagonist, Stan, but even Pete, even Kate Blanchett's character, they all have like something weighing them down, and they all are sort of monsters in some way.
Well, that's Willem Dafoe's big line in the trailers: "Is he man or is he beast?"
Yeah.
Well, I mean that's what's interesting, right? Is Ben, you brought up the point of like it's the monster and the ugliness within humans, and I think that kind of makes me think of Frankenstein, in that we create our own monsters sometimes. Stan Carlisle is kind of the monster, I guess, of the film, where he was created as a product of all of these different interactions that he had throughout the carnival with the different carnies, and Kate Blanchett's character is a product of Stan's own making, right? He created his own monster. Pete created his own monster. It's all of these. So I think it is a creature feature in a certain way, but it's not traditional Del Toro with like The Shape of Water, where you have like a fish. But I think that's an interesting way of looking at this as kind of a monster film in its own right.
If Shape of Water could win Best Picture, which it did, Nightmare Alley could win Best Picture.
That is true. That is true.
We won't discuss too much about that on this episode.
Yeah, you're right.
I do have some thoughts about that.
If you want us to do an episode on Shape of Water, leave a comment below. You'll be the first comment, so we'll probably follow up.
Whoa.
My God, shots fired at everyone podcast by everyone podcaster.
Whoa.
Also, just want to say thank you to all the people who are watching it. You're the reason we do this. You're fantastic. We love you all. Anyway,
we're gonna take a quick break right now and deal with Declan.
Yeah, maybe a quick pause. One thing that I did want to say related to the the monsters. Everyone has something that they're all marks in their own way. Like very early on, it's established everyone has a mark. And even Kate Blanchett's character, she marked them. Like it's a big con for her too. Molly's sort of out of the game, but they all have this like selfish reason for doing everything. And I think it's really genius to show like how much who is the greater monster, right? Like with Willem Dafoe's character and the man, or is he beast, the geeks. Who is the real monster there? I mean, I think it's pretty clear, like the person abusing their power is the monster in a way. And in a certain way, I think the movie plays, on a knife's edge, like this idea of who's more to blame, like Stan, or I'm forgetting her name. I keep calling her Kate Blanchett's character, the therapist.
The therapist.
Ritter.
Lilith.
Lilith Ritter.
I think that's her name. Yeah. But like she's also like manipulating him from the very
entire
beginning.
Mm-hmm.
To basically, get put into this stuff because she knows that all that matters, like in the end, to him is the money. He's following the money. But they all have, these intricacies to their characters that I think makes it really unique, in that no one there are a few victims, right? Like Molly, for the most part, is a victim.
Pete,
Xena, to a degree, is a victim. Certainly the judge and his wife are victims of his but there are a lot of like other people like Gimbal and like Ritter who are, they're victims in some ways, but also like an aggressor in a lot of other ways. Like they're very complex people. And the story makes it more complex given what happens.
Yeah, there's a lot of dimensionality to these characters, and that is a testament to Del Toro's ability to build a world.
Yes.
I think the characters in this film were all so well written that you get a sense of everything about them from the moment they're on screen. You can, obviously things weren't revealed at the outset, because who wants to watch a movie where everything is told to them directly at the beginning of the movie? But you get a sense of the first time we see Stan, for example, he's falling asleep on a bus and he sort of wakes up at a carnival and he's like, all right, I'm going to go along for the ride and see where this takes me. This is what my life's about to be. The first time we meet Lilith, the therapist, she's attempting manipulation. That's going to be a big part of her character. So Del Toro's ability, and obviously, the screenwriting and the world building of the original storytellers decades ago have a big part in this. But for everyone involved in developing these characters, including the actors, great performances all around, you get to see peeks at what role they'll play in every single moment they're on screen from beginning to end.
Yeah, and
you get a real sense of the world in such a cinematic way that it creates this three-dimensional piece.
One of the most impressive things that like you touched upon was like some of the actors and characters don't have the most screen time, but somehow that you all get like the feel of what the character is about and their motivations and who they are as a character, with whatever screen time they are on there. Like
even
no
even the first geek
Hmm?
hesitation before biting that chicken's head off.
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe
And
saying,
there's a
"Oh,
lot of
he's." I told him it was only temporary. You know, you're getting these details about everybody, and not a lot of. I mean, really well written movies can do what this movie did, and this movie, especially that first act, where it's all at the carnival before Stan and Molly go off and do their thing. That first act is just from a writing perspective and a world building perspective, it's so tight.
Yeah, and
it's
it builds
just brilliant.
Yeah,
like
you
everything. Sorry.
No, I'll just very quickly say, in a lesser filmmaker's like hands, you could imagine like people going like, why are we spending so much time at the carnival? Who cares about these people and all that? But because of how much like effort went into like setting up the world and the characters here, it felt real and felt natural for the story itself. And I think that's a real feat on him. And also also the like stupidly but also subtly great cast, like so many great actors just in like all the like minor roles, you know. I mean, when you get like Tim Blake Nelson at the very end there, you know, it's like, it just like they have a bunch of greats here.
I will say, like, just like George was saying, the first act, I mean, they spend a lot of time in the buildup. This is one thing that few movies do well. When you spend a lot of time with the buildup, everything pays off in this movie, right? Everything they talk about, it all ends up being relevant to the end. And especially like, you know, the way that Willem Dafoe talks about, like, you know, getting the geeks, and especially the way that Pete talks about, you know, believing the lie. Everyone to a certain degree is believing their own lie. That's why they all do these things, is because they've convinced themselves. And certainly Stan has convinced himself in a, you know, a weird way that he's helping these people, that he's trying to, you know, give them closure, when in reality it's just an excuse for him to get really big payday. I think it's really fantastic the way that it builds up into that. Like, it makes sense from the very beginning of, you know, not just the characters, but the ideology of the movie itself. And I think that's a really hard thing to do, to put everything together where it fits the ideology of the movie, the ideology of the characters. It makes sense, you know. They're all believing their own lie. They're all out for themselves. I just think that's, I thought it was fantastic.
Hey,
and I will say, I think it's better than The Shape of Water. I really love The Shape of Water, but I think this movie's better.
Yeah. Has anyone here? I didn't even know that it was a remake at all. Has anyone seen the original by off chance?
I haven't. It's also based on a book too.
Oh yeah.
I haven't read the book. Haven't seen the original movie.
Yeah. Noir, I feel like, is a genre that I'm unfortunately. It's a genre I continuously want to get more into, but like I've seen a few, but I know there are, you know, noir classics I haven't seen.
Yeah.
You don't see that many great film noir examples in modern cinema.
True.
It really is, you know, there's the obvious exception, but it really is a genre that has gone by the wayside in favor of other ideas in modern filmmaking. So to get something neo-noir with the elements of psychological thriller that Del Toro was so good at, I think that there's potential. I mean, I know this is a remake, but the success of films like Nightmare Alley in 2021, 2022, and moving forward, the success of these films is integral to restoring that type of filmmaking in the modern day. you could see a renaissance of film noir moving forward. I'm not saying Nightmare Alley is the impetus for something like that to take place, but there is an audience for this type of film today as there was 50, 60, 70 years ago.
Yep.
I feel that. Yeah. It's a very, noir has great potential, I feel. And like what you're talking about, it has great potential to speak to people, and all that. It's like even in the few examples, it's no, I definitely see what you mean. I think I feel like in a way Del Toro is playing a lot to his strengths in this film, having it sort of set in the past, but also such a stylized story, and it has some weird stuff, but it doesn't go overboard. So it's like again, I feel like this is a well-made film, like that plays up his best elements, in my opinion. I'm not a Del Toro expert. I should clarify.
I do have to say, sorry. Just with noir is one of my favorite genres. I will say this movie, it's less noir than anything else. Because noir typically focuses on like a general mystery, and I feel like this film really more explores the characters. There's no central mystery that's going on.
That's a fair assessment.
Cover. I know the original is supposed to be a noir film, but that was largely like, I haven't seen the film, but I know the 40s and 50s was the heyday of the noir film. So I don't know what the framing was. I'm not sure how much that is captured in this film. I think, to me, it really seemed like Del Toro was just going for more of an exploration around like the motivations for the people and the characters. The story was, in essence, like an extension of the characters themselves and their evolutions. The story doesn't really mold the characters mold the story. So I would say it is very much more a sort of psychological drama than it is like a noir.
Yeah, I would say that's fair. It leans more into a character-driven story than a story-driven story. I think everything that causes this film to move forward is brought on by the characters.
Mainly Stan.
Stan, if he doesn't fall asleep on the bus and actually goes to the stop he wants to go to, the entire movie doesn't happen.
True.
So, when I can point out something like that, it takes away from the viewing experience a little bit, but at the same time, it allows for this great story to play out.
I still think that doesn't take away from who Stan is as a person. I think he could have found another opportunity, at his original stop. I don't even remember where it was supposed to be, but he could have found his way back there. And I think that's indicative of where he ends up in the second half of the film, which is sort of like high end, what is it, Buffalo or something?
Yeah.
I don't even remember. Yeah. And that he's comfortable living in different types of worlds. And we get that not only at the very beginning of the film where he sets the house on fire, but also towards the latter half, and then at the very end when it's revealed sort of what was going on in that scene. But it just shows that he's charismatic enough to exist in different spaces. And he doesn't need to be tied down to the carnival or to high life or whatever it might be. But then, of course, at the very end, we find out that he really does need to be in the carnival. That's where he ends up back. That's where he ends back up again with Ted Blake Nelson and becoming the geek, the new geek.
I think that's something that you can really like get into the nitty-gritty of his character is that you see two different sides of him. The beginning of the film, he's very much taken in by, I want to learn as much as I can about how I can succeed with my skill set. And then he builds up his profile with the circus and, that interaction with the local law enforcement, we'll call them, where he sort of manipulates a safe passage out of a sticky situation. Then there's the time jump, and we find him with Molly as sort of his assistant. He's in high society, and you sort of miss a little. I mean, obviously a time jump, you're going to miss something, but something in Stan's character changes in what we don't see in that time gap. And so time jump. So you see him in his rise, and then you see him at his peak, but there's a moment that I would have liked to see where he reaches the peak.
I will say, so there are a few things I will say to that. The peak is basically like when he has that confrontation. I think that's the moment that you're talking about. That's the moment that lets him do his own thing, which is he is talking like after he does that. So first of all, he takes over, right? Like he starts, manipulating the cops and stuff. But then he goes, and afterwards, he's talking about this to the head of, the carny, and to all the people in the carnival. Basically, like, this is what I did. He was the big shot in that room. And then they flash forward. So I think it was actually a very smart decision to do it, because it shows like that his character switched them. As soon as he knew that he had the talent to be the star and he didn't have to learn anymore, then he was the big shot. And then he was looking down on everyone, like the movie really sort of centralized, like that he believed himself better than a lot of people.
You swung me. You're absolutely right.
And going back, I will go back to you saying, the choice that he had. I think choice is really integral to this story. Going back to the tarot cards that Xena had, set up, that like basically, this is the way that his life is going now, that he's going to be the hanged man, essentially hung by his own sins. But he had a choice, right?
Yeah.
He always had a choice, and all of his choices lead to what happens, whether he profits from it in the way they did after that whole cop thing, or whether he pilfers it and basically hangs himself in this web of lies that he's created, where he's in too deep. And he always believes himself better than everyone, that he could con everyone, even his own wife, even this therapist, when he realizes that he's been caught.
Which is such a good turn. That scene is so good.
It was something you could almost not see coming. The film almost tricks you into thinking it won't happen, I feel like, so that then when it does,
that's the thing. You believe the lie, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
that's what they say. You believe your own lie. Like, oh, yeah, maybe he can get away with this.
Yeah. Like,
Ben's playing chess while the other three of us are playing checkers. Go watch Broken Chess. So,
no.
Go ahead.
No, it just like it. It was. I mean, it was manipulations on both him and the audience, and I think, and it was a great success to sort of put us in his exact state of mind, like getting us to feel that
and the last thing I'll say, even the way that the movie is framed, like the beginning shots of him taking care of his father, like he's saying, "Oh, I love you, I love you."
Taking care of something means set it on fire, right?
Exactly. But like, so the protagonist is obviously Stan, and the way that we see those things, it's showing like, oh, he believes he was taking care of him. He believes his own lie from the very beginning. It shows you that he has conned himself first and foremost. That's why he's able to do all these things, and that's why he gets into trouble, because he believed his own lie, because he didn't think that there was any consequence to it.
And I'm just thinking of like the way that everything sort of starts to unravel towards the end of the film. It's such an innocuous moment with the old guy, what's his name? Gimbal?
The judge.
Yeah.
Richard Jenkins.
Jenkins. Okay.
Richard Jenkins, the actor Richard Jenkins.
The guy
playing
that
Gimbal.
lost
his son.
His daughter.
Well, he lost his wife.
Yeah.
Who miscarried.
Wife.
The miscarried.
Oh
right.
wait. We're
Yes.
thinking. Sorry.
But, like,
thinking,
that's what I was thinking about, right?
Yeah.
That it's Rooney Mara. It's her character just sort of standing there, but it's such a small moment where if Stan could have just kept him back, then he might not have ever found out about Lilith stealing money, because he wouldn't need to go back to her, or it would have been delayed at least. He wouldn't have lost his Rooney Mara. He wouldn't have had to kill the henchman, but whatever his name was, and his ear wouldn't have gotten shot off in that moment. He could have just gone back to conning people in a new city. But like that's just a small moment of where he lost control. He lost that little bit, even though he planned this con so meticulously. And I think that's what's so brilliant about it.
It was also overconfidence, right? Like he
exactly
better than people. So
he's Icarus.
Yeah.
He flew too close to the sun, and that's
you see that too close to your con man is the big thing.
I mean, you see that a lot with movies that deal with mentalism. Is the overconfidence, getting a little bit too brash with the skill, and it's mankind's obsession with power. And when you think that you can wield power, like Max was just saying, if you lose your grip on a situation, even if it slips just a little, it all unravels.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Which is so huge for Stan's character in the third act of this movie. Is that not only does the situation unravel, but then everything after that unravels. He loses the one woman who's been by his side literally since the beginning. Then he runs over a guy with his car twice. Then he goes on the run from the police. Yeah. And then he gets his ear shot off. And then he's sort of mentally manipulated himself by Lilith. And then the money's gone. And then he's a geek.
Yeah.
That's how far he falls from that one situation falling apart.
Yeah.
And one thing I wanted to add, sorry, Declan, is just that the actor that plays the guy that Stan runs over is in a show called Mindhunter that deals with profiling of violent criminals. And he goes through a polygraph with him. And so I just thought that was really interesting. And, for someone who's seen Mindhunter and looking back on the movie now, it felt like it's, I can retroactively sort of think like, oh, maybe that was a little bit of foreshadowing, that he was the one to kind of suss out that Stan, or he was one of the people to suss out that Stan was a con man, that he was able to think about that in a way. Yeah. Obviously, it's not connected at all, but just kind of fun for me.
Can I just very quickly?
Yeah.
I also love the moment, like, to go on the point you were talking about like trying to control things and all that. The moment of when he's like confessing, and it's like I've killed, like, he doesn't say like there's so many young women, I've hurt them, and it's like what? And it's like you almost feel like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into in that moment? Because he thinks he knows everything and has full control over everything, and then it's like,
but he still goes for it, right? He's like, you're gonna confess now. You're gonna purge yourself. All right, we're gonna do this. $10,000. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk just for a second about the range of my guy Richard Jenkins? That guy can do Step Brothers in 2008, and he can do Nightmare Alley in 2021.
Hey, he was also in Cabin in the Woods. All right.
Wait, he was. Oh my
I'm
god.
just looking at two different ends of the timeline here.
Polls on the bets on what was going to happen to these people.
And he was in Shape of Water too, right?
He was in Shape of Water too. Yeah, that's right.
Dude has
yeah, you. And so was I can't remember.
Del Toro has his favorites.
He does.
Ron Perlman was there probably.
Ron Perlman should have been the fish in The Shape of Water, but not give him any fish makeup and just have Ron Perlman in a tank.
All right.
Ron Perlman in his character from Don't Look Up as the fish in The Shape of Water.
There was no way Del Toro wasn't using Doug Jones.
Yeah, that's true. He probably wrote it for Doug Jones. Like he was like, "Man, Doug, we need to have a movie where you fuck."
He already played a fishman in Hellboy. Like
exactly.
He was born for it.
Mm-hmm.
He was born for this,
I mean, if we're talking about Hellboy, there's another actor in Hellboy who might have been better as the fish.
Were you afraid?
No, forget it. Let's talk for a minute about Rooney Mara, because we haven't really discussed her too much tonight. I wasn't expecting as brilliant a performance as the one she gave. I don't know about you guys, but I thought that she went toe to toe with Bradley Cooper in every single scene. I think she was one of the best performers in this film, and I wasn't expecting that. I thought in a cast with this many great names, it would be, everyone but Bradley Cooper would essentially be pushed off to the side.
Yeah.
But she held her own really, really well.
I think everyone did. And I would say, yeah, I mean, she really did go toe to toe. I think I don't want to say the script didn't give her a lot of, room to breathe, but like her character was not as extreme as the other characters, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
The more human, you could empathize with her a lot more than the other people who were really going off the rails.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think she did a really good job being that like human anchor. It was like, what are you doing? This is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what people need to latch onto when they watch movies, is some way that they can insert themselves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's a piece of dialogue, whether it's a character. In this case, it's a character.
I think she fit really well as like the movie's conscience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I loved her minor monologue where it's like I know when I've had too much. This feels like that. But I know it could have very easily been like just sort of like a whatever thing. But again, I feel like she really she made it super memorable,
Especially in the context of the carnival, right? Like, yeah, I mean everything is a lot in the carnival. It's a very extreme setting. So when you have too much in the carnival, that means it's bad, right? It's bad, and you see the consequences of that, obviously.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Max, what do you think?
I also thought that she was brilliant. I think I'm not really going to add anything that wasn't already said, so it's kind of why I didn't jump in there, because you're absolutely right though, George, is that having something or someone to latch onto in a film is so important, and whether or not that's for the right reasons doesn't really matter. I think this felt like it was for the right reasons. Being able to relate to Molly felt like it was the right thing to do, because all the other characters, for the most part, were not great people. So well, they weren't really people that you'd want to sit down and say, oh, I kind of want to be like you. I mean, not that I really want to be like Molly either, but she was the most likable of all the characters. Maybe not the most interesting, but for sure the most likable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, final thoughts on Nightmare Alley?
Fantastic film. You know, it's really another great effort by Del Toro. Absolutely worth your time if you missed it, in my opinion.
Yeah, a fantastic movie. I think everyone should see it. A little on, you know, the thriller side, but you know, it's a fantastic movie.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend this film. It's on HBO Max right now, and you know, definitely want to take your time with it. There's some stuff that you can pick up on that we didn't talk about when you're watching it that for sure is something that will enhance your experience with the film. And I won't say exactly what that is, but go see it.
Yeah, this film, I don't know that I would see a lot of movies with the word nightmare in the title, just from, you know, what I like to watch. Obviously, we do a movie podcast, so I'm trying to expand a little bit. Like I said earlier, I'm not the biggest Del Toro guy, but this film is so gosh darn compelling. And I think that if you like thrillers, if you like something that's really gritty and you can really see how low humanity can get, and I hate to sound cliche, but a commentary on the lowest parts of the human condition, this film is such a great commentary on what the psyche enables us to do. And so I think if you have 2.5 hours and you want to let this film go through its slow burn, it is a slow burn. As we said, the first act is the first hour. You don't meet Kate Blanchett's character until halfway through the film, and she's second billed. But yeah, this is one to keep an eye on as we get into Oscar season and as we look into how this type of film, whether it's from Del Toro or other filmmakers, how this type of film can make its way in the industry today. So that's going to wrap up this episode of Unqualified Film Bros. As Max said, you can watch Nightmare Alley right now on HBO Max. Enjoy it. Enjoy the Oscars when Nightmare Alley inevitably comes up in conversation during the night. We will see you next week. We're going to talk about everyone's favorite caped crusader. So have a good night.
Yeah.
Yeah.